My name is Natasha Demkina, and ever since I was a child growing up in Saransk, Russia, people have spoken about me as if I were something unusual. My story truly began when I was about 10 years old. I was an ordinary schoolgirl living in a small apartment with my mother, studying, playing, and dreaming like everyone else. But then something changed, or at least that is how I experienced it. I remember sitting with my mother one afternoon when I suddenly felt as if I could see inside her. Not with my eyes, of course, but with another kind of image forming in my mind. I told her that I could see things under her skin, organs, bones, shapes. She was startled, then curious. Soon, relatives and neighbors came, asking me to look at them. I described what I sensed, and some said what I told them matched their medical conditions. Word spread quickly, faster than I or my family expected. By my early teens, journalists and doctors began to visit our home. Some wanted to believe that I had a gift, others came only to prove I did not. I was brought to hospitals, shown patients, given tests. I tried to explain that what I saw was not like real X-rays. It was more like patterns, colors, or impressions that I interpreted. But the more attention I received, the more people insisted on clear answers, something I could not always give. In 2004, when I was still very young, I traveled to London and later to New York to be examined by researchers. They performed controlled tests, comparing my descriptions to medical records. Sometimes I performed well, other times I failed. People were quick to draw conclusions, some calling me a miracle, others calling me a fraud. I was too young to understand how heavy such labels could be. The attention became overwhelming. Crowds gathered outside my home. Reporters pressed microphones into my face. Strangers begged me to diagnose them. Doctors debated me publicly. I was still a teenager, unsure of who I was or what I wanted to become. I felt as though I had become a symbol in a battle between believers and skeptics, rather than a real person with feelings and doubts. As I grew older, I tried to step back from the circus around me. I focused on my education, my studies, and a life as normal as I could manage. The world had decided who I was long before I could decide it for myself. And so I chose distance, not because I rejected my experiences, but because I needed to protect the quiet parts of my life. People often ask me whether I truly have X-ray vision. I can only say that I experienced something unusual when I was young, something real to me, though perhaps not measurable by scientific instruments. Maybe it was intuition sharpened by observation, or a child's mind interpreting subtle cues in ways adults could not understand. Or perhaps it was something psychological, a talent mixed with imagination and expectation, shaped by people desperate for hope. If I must offer a possible explanation, I believe it lies not in supernatural powers, but in the complex interaction of keen perception, pattern recognition, and the intense expectations placed on me by adults. Children are remarkably sensitive observers, and I may have learned to notice details that others overlooked: posture, skin tone, subtle expressions, or the way someone moved. Over time, encouraged by attention and belief, those impressions might have formed the vivid internal images I described. Perhaps my so-called X-ray vision was never a literal ability, but rather a combination of intuition, suggestion, and the imagination of a child placed under a spotlight. Whatever the truth, it is a part of my story, but it does not define all of who I am.